Hello everybody, welcome back to video 2. Thank you so much for all the wonderful feedback on video 1, and I'm looking forward to getting your feedback on this. Now you know that I'm a bit of a video newbie, so you've got no idea how much fiddle-arsing I've been to try and find a spot in my house with nothing coming out of my head. This is to the side of my head, that I'm wearing the right thing, that I've got the right background and blah blah blah. So I'm sure I will improve in the months ahead, but at least I'm doing it. And I could only manage to get half of that poor lady in the film, but I think eventually I have high hopes that the whole of the thing will be in the video as well, and it's because it's very beautiful and it's made of banana leaf. But anyway, enough about me and on to you. Now this series, as you know, I have spent quite a lot of time curating and researching lots and lots of information when I became perimenopausal and menopausal, and then understood the impact of stress on those symptoms as we get older. And I have tried to condense it into manageable and bite-sized bits of info. So first video, if you want to watch that, is somewhere on this page, I think up there, or you know, in one of these little boxy things. This one is now looking at some of the things that women do wrong. And my next video will be about the solutions to what we've all been doing wrong. So I'm looking forward to your feedback on this, and I'm going to kick off with the 5 things women get wrong. Now it's not all women all the time, but quite a lot of women quite a lot of the time. I made all of these mistakes, obviously. And quite a lot of the women that I've worked with in my workshops have also done that. So I think that people have found this quite useful, so I hope you do too. So the first thing is, too many women don't have a plan for their lives. No plan, not even a bad plan. Every woman should have a 10-year plan for what they want to achieve and how they're going to grow as a person. Too many of us, I think, lurch, you know, from day to day or month to month, reacting to our family and or work situation, and we lose perspective of life's bigger picture. So often women, and I was certainly one of them, have a 10-year plan or a 3-year plan, an annual plan, quarterly plan at work, but not for outside work. And I did this for years. My work plan was my plan, it was my life, it was my identity, it was all wrapped up in work, and everything else was a sort of irritation, an add-on that I didn't give too much thought to. Number 2, leading on from that, women don't put themselves first. So we're hormonally wired to people please, as you know, from the hormone estrogen does this. It's the nurturing hormone that we have in abundance. Now, because we're often the primary carers of the next generation as well as workers and leaders, etc., it's even more important that we care for ourselves really, really well. And often this is seen as a luxury, not just by women, but also by family and friends and colleagues. And it really isn't. We have to see it as an investment. It's absolutely essential that it's seen as an investment and not a luxury. I love Dr. Christiane Northrup. She's one of these doctors that I've found. I was so pleased to find her and follow her, all her blogs and her work regularly. She puts it like this: women are left with 5,000 years of patriarchy and with a feeling of inferiority. We're afraid of not being liked or being alone. Learn to say no. It's a full sentence which women need to use more. It's fantastic, isn't it? And Sarah Gottfried, another one of my crushes, said, oh, and if you can't say no, try with probably not. That's also a complete sentence. Anyway, very good point. And the other good point that Dr. Christiane Northrup says is that there's a huge focus on breast cancer, but actually the number 1 killer for women is heart disease, usually brought on by stress and issues related to lifestyle. And certainly this hit me when I became a parent at the grand old age of 45, and then I went back after maternity leave to a full-time high-flying job. I had no idea how to relax. I wasn't relaxed before then, but I certainly wasn't after I'd had my baby. I would positively twitch and I had lists running in and out my head. It was a disaster. So, number 3, women lack confidence in their greatness. This is massive. This really is massive. And the marketing industry really, really doesn't help this at all, or rather it plays to it. Dr. Gail Dines, I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing her name right, says, if women loved their bodies, just think how many industries would go out of business. That's so true. And that's just the dieting industry is $1 billion industry, let alone anything else. We're very poorly informed about our own bodies and our own health, and many female bodily functions are still surrounded by stigma, which we continue. We don't know about the cycle of life apart from reproduction, which seems to be the only one that's celebrated. We often don't track our periods, and we don't know about perimenopause or menopause or how to age well and what our job is on the planet after when we are in menopause. So we get sucked into denigrating our body parts on a regular basis to friends and worse in front of our girl and boy children. And this stops us being as great as we should be. And Dr. Sarah Gottfried, who's another wonderful gynecologist and doctor that I've got a big fat crush on, explains this so well. She really does. She says a consequence of a lack of confidence in information is that women can end up by default not growing and deepening their experience on the planet and therefore choosing to decline. I remember when I heard her saying that, I was practically hyperventilating, thinking, help, I must get a plan. It's such a waste. This was exactly me. I was so badly informed about all the phases of life girls and women go through, and I really, really want to see what I can do to help change that. Number 4, women don't eat enough and or eat at precisely the wrong times. This is also part of the big marketing myth that we all get sucked into. So many women I know don't eat breakfast or have coffee or something sugary on the run. We don't make time for lunch or just have a starchy carb heavy snack. We then feel guilty when we start eating too much late afternoon and evening, when in fact we can't help it. Cravings are completely biochemical and we can't control them, especially when we haven't eaten enough healthy food during the day. Because our biochemistry requires us to eat fat, healthy fat, protein and carbs for every meal, not just occasionally. Fat storing is wired into our brains just like reproduction is, so if we don't eat enough, we store fat. And in the olden days, healthy fats were the only foodstuffs available. Nowadays, you get poor quality fat from low-grade starchy carbs, which give us the cravings because they're so full of sugar. And what happened was that with the low-fat craze, for some reason, which we know that that's really bad, but women often stopped eating protein as well, and that was really disastrous, and it continues to be. As I said, we need protein every single meal because it keeps our blood sugar stable. And what is blood sugar? Well, it's fuel. You have to imagine a car lurching around the place with low-grade, watered-down fuel. Cars. Imagine the car being grumpy. Well, that's you or me or anybody else who hasn't eaten enough because the fuel's not getting to our brain. What do you expect? Remember how I told you that all the messages to and from our hormones start in the brain? Well, if we're underfeeding our brain, we're basically, stupider than we should be. Plus, we're robbing our bodies of the hormones that we need as we're stuck making cortisol. And you know all about that from video 1. I was diagnosed with pre-diabetes before, when I was perimenopausal, and I realised I was told that it was all the fruit and fresh fruit juice and lack of protein was causing my afternoon cravings and mood swings. I'd no idea. And worse was that I always thought I was quite well informed on the dietary front. I was completely wrong because I was eating far too much fruit and not nearly enough vegetables, because really it's vegetables that count and fruit is an optional extra. So, number 5. Women feel guilty a lot of the time. Guilty if we work and have children, guilty if we don't work and have children, guilty probably if we don't have children at all and do work or whatever else we feel guilty about. And are you guilty of this? I've been feeling guilty for years, but it's a biochemical response, and guess what? It produces cortisol, obviously. And the other thing that keeps us feeling guilty is assuming that willpower is the solution. Start diets or stop them, start exercising, stop that, and think it's our fault when we fail, feel even more guilty. But that is actually a biochemical trap, and one of my other top girl crushes, Dr. Susan Peirce Thompson, is brilliant on explaining why willpower is overrated. So, what to do? Well, we really need in our 40s to start making these good lifestyle choices, especially if we've been avoiding them and been really, really not good to ourselves in our 20s and 30s. Problem is, in our 40s, if we're experiencing perimenopausal symptoms like insomnia or brain fog, you're not actually always in a good position to make good choices. So if you don't sleep, we're hormonally wired to crave carbs and sugar for energy. And the other added element to this is that we don't actually need to eat as much food as we did when we were younger, because our thyroid, which remember controls our metabolism, starts slowing down when you're over 40. But we tend to keep eating away. So where does all this food go? Well, generally on your tummy. So what are some of the solutions? Well, in my next video, I'm really looking forward to sharing my formula, which I've tested and trialled extensively over the last 2 years to address these very, very hormonal challenges for women over 40, how to address some of the things that we're doing wrong so that we can actually break the cycle. But it's so important before you break the cycle that we do understand why it is that it happens and what we should and shouldn't be doing about it. So I really, really hope that you've found this useful. And I'm really looking forward to your feedback, and I'm really looking forward to you seeing video 3. So see you soon. Bye.